Alright guys, so in this video we are going to be looking at our study of quadratics, but specifically now on the graphing side of it. So up until now we've looked at how to solve quadratic equations. We looked at some applications of quadratic equations, and now we're going to wrap out that study with our graphing of quadratic equations. So just to recall, a quadratic equation is in standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c, where a, b, and c are real numbers. Now we have some interesting things that happen. If a is positive, then we have this graph shape, we call it a parabola, that is open upward. So if a is positive, it doesn't matter what number, how big or how small, then A is going to be open up. Interestingly enough, the larger that A gets, the skinnier the graph is. And so as you increase A, you are going to make the graph narrower. So for example, we may have this is A equals 1, and then this graph may be like A equals 5. It's getting narrower as A gets bigger. Same thing is going to be true if A is less than 0 or negative. It's going to still be true, except it's going to be flipped upside down. But still, here is going to be A is negative. We're always going to have a graph upside down. But still, as the absolute value of A gets larger, so meaning just ignore the sign, just look at the number itself. As the absolute value of A gets larger, as you increase that value, your graph is going to get narrower. The negative just tells you it's upside down. So here, this may be x or A equals 1. But it's negative, that's why it's flipped upside down. This one may be A equals 5, and it's upside down, just tells me that it's negative. Okay? All right, we have two forms, primarily two forms, and the two you can see on the screen are going to be standard form, which is what we've been looking at. Everything we've done up until now has been in standard form. But we're going to introduce this new one called vertex form. And so vertex form is going to show us the vertex. Well, what is the vertex? The vertex is going to be the lowest or highest point of the graph. So let's look back at these two examples we started with. And let's just label. Here is a vertex. And here is this one's vertex. Just that, the highest or the lowest point depending on the direction of the graph. Okay, so more general is just looking at a graph, being able to actually point to the vertex. Well, what if we don't have a graph? So to find the vertex in standard form, we have this formula. X equals negative b over 2a, which is also going to be called the axis of symmetry. But that's also going to be the x value in my vertex. So the axis of symmetry is always going to run right through the vertex. So if I find that number first, then that tells me also the x-coordinate because it's hitting right here at the x-axis. And then I'm going to plug in the axis of symmetry to find out the y value. So here's the formula. That probably doesn't mean much to you. Here's what the formula actually means. So you do need to know this. But here is kind of the application. How do you do that? You find negative b over 2a. That's what this says. That's the x value. And then you plug that thing into the formula and that's going to give you out the y value. Okay? All right, so to find the vertex, if it's in vertex form, we're going to look at that separately. That one's a lot easier. Let's look at a couple of examples. Here's two in standard form. So if it's in standard form, like both of these, you have to do a little bit more work. So the formula says find x equals negative b over 2a. Okay, so step 1, negative b over 2a. And that's going to be the x value. Well, this is the same a, b, and c we've been looking at. A equals 1, b equals negative 4, c equals 5. So negative b is going to be negative 4, which is going to be positive 4 over 2 times a. So I've got 4 over 2, which is 2. That is going to be the x value in my vertex. Okay, well, vertex is a point, so I need a y value. So step 2, I'm going to plug in x equals 2 into the equation, x squared minus 4x plus 5. Okay, but instead of x, I want to fill in 2. So I've got 2 squared, and let me write that with parentheses. So we go ahead and get in that habit. 2 squared minus 4 times 2 plus 5. All right, you can type that thing in your calculator, or you can do it in multiple steps, but 2 squared minus 4 times 2 plus 5 is going to give me 1. That is going to be the y value. And so my vertex is going to be x comma y, and x is 2 as found in step 1, y is 1 as found in step 2. And so that would be my vertex. All right, I would like for you to pause the video, try the second one, and then check with mine. All right, so hopefully you've gotten an answer. So here is going to be our check. So I've got step 1, negative b over 2a. Well, I've got negative 4, which is going to be positive 4 over 2 times a, which is 1. 4 divided by 2 is going to give me 2. That's going to be my x value. Step 2, find the y value. So I'm going to plug in x equals 2 into the equation and get out an answer. So I've got 2 squared minus 4 times 2 plus 2. And that is going to give me negative 2. And so my vertex for that equation is going to be x comma y, 2, negative 2. Okay? So there is finding the vertex in standard form. Standard form is what we've been looking at. We do have finding the vertex in vertex form. Well, vertex form we wrote down up here, and I'm going to rewrite it just so we can see it. Vertex form, you can see at the top of the screen, is f of x equals a times x minus h squared plus k, and then it says where hk is the vertex. So it is just like it appears. Change the sign of h because in the formula it is minus h, and in my vertex I want positive h, so that's going to become the x value. And then k, the sign is not going to change because it's already positive in the vertex form formula. And so change the sign of h, keep the sign of k, and those are going to be your x and y. So it is much easier in vertex form, which is why it's called vertex form, because you can get the vertex a lot quicker. So I'm going to keep both of those on the screen. So let's look at this last column. These are all going to be in vertex form. And the directions still say, well, find the vertex. And don't worry about the number out front. That's A. We're going to talk about that kind of later. We alluded to it at the beginning, but I am just looking for the vertex. So there's H, and there is K. Now remember, H is going to change signs. K is not. And so H is going to go to 7. K is going to stay as -1. So change the sign of H, keep the sign of K. And so my vertex for that one is going to be 7, -1. All right, I'd recommend pausing the video and trying this one and then checking with mine. All right, so my vertex, I've got H and K. Remember, H is going to change signs. So +6, and my vertex is going to be -6. K is going to stay the same. And so my vertex is going to be -6, +10.